Reality is not that you are weak and dream of becoming strong, poor and dream of becoming rich, alone and dream of becoming connected. It is that you are already strong, already rich, already connected, yet at times dream that you are not. That's Mike Dooley in Notes from the Universe. That is one of my favorite notes from the universe, and I thought it would fit nicely with our discussion today. Now, copies of all 3 iterations of Notes from the Universe are on their way to the bookstore, even as I speak. But the line I just shared speaks perfectly to what we're looking at today. Oneness. It's an idea that we talk a lot about here, but it can seem pretty elusive when we're out in the world experiencing people whose moods and attitudes may be, we'll go with less than polite, okay? I know that for me, it's a big struggle to allow my inner Pollyanna to shine when I observe someone being negatively judgmental about or verbally attacking someone. Now, despite my usual confrontation phobia, and it truly is that, I will go, no, it's my fault, and I'll accept the blame. But contrary to that, in those kinds of situations, my inner soapbox speaker shuts Pollyanna right down and tries to swoop in and defend whoever's being targeted. Fortunately, Pollyanna brings some compassion to the mix and almost always stops me from acting like the bully I'm trying to thwart. It is an issue for me, though, and probably the biggest one I struggle with. Now, many of you know that I kind of shopped around when it came to faith. Starting at about the age of 10, I began tagging along to the churches that my friends attended, and I tried them all on for size. I really spent some time with each one of them. And I asked a whole lot of questions about the scary stuff they taught and about how they'd tell me I was always loved and then turn right back around and say that I was also always being watched, which is creepy, and judged, so I better behave or I wouldn't be worth loving. Asking questions like those is a practice which I quickly discovered a lot of church leaders aren't particularly fond of. That didn't stop me, though. I think I was trying to find one of those organized religions that I could fully believe in without question. Instead of trying to wrap my brain around abstract concepts, I just couldn't seem to connect with abstract. Obviously, I never found an organized religion with which I could fully connect without having some very big questions left unanswered. So lo and behold, I ended up right back here where I started. Sometimes you got to travel a bit in order to appreciate where you came from, right? The reason I bring this up is as I was writing this, I found myself remembering some of the more extreme and therefore extremely entertaining experience I had throughout those religious travels, like the laying on of hands causing folks to spontaneously drop to the floor in rapture, one after another, like the casting out of dark forces, like people being so moved that suddenly they began to speak in tongues. These were things which were obviously very different from what I grew up with here, and I remember being utterly fascinated by them. Oh man, I wished that I could connect with what they believed in a way that would lead me to experience some of that really cool looking stuff. I am sure many of you will be relieved to know that there will be no speaking of tongues or casting out of ooga boogas here today. But we will be talking about casting away darkness to bring forth the light of our oneness. Are there any DC Comics fans here? Yeah? Okay, well, most of you know that I don't watch TV. But every now and then, I'll go to the movies or I'll stream something on my phone. Yes, I watch the itty-bitty little screen because it goes with me. Now, if my minute attention span lets me, sometimes I even sit through a whole show in one sitting, but it's rare. So last week, I finally got around to watching Justice League. I know it's been a while. Lois Lane said something that really resonated with me. She said, and I did look this up to make sure I got it right. She said, darkness, the truest darkness, is not the absence of light. It is the conviction that the light will never return, but the light always returns to show us things familiar. Home, family, and things entirely new or long overlooked. It shows us new possibilities and challenges us to pursue them. That's really big, right? I thought so. I mean, we've all been through some icky business in our lives, right? And when we're right in the middle of the whole mess, doesn't it sometimes feel like the darkness, those dark, ugly feelings that we're experiencing, that's going to stay forever? Or for our purposes today, we could say that we feel like the light will never return. But see, here's where it gets interesting, because there is only light. I know it's hard to see it right in the thick of things. And I get that. But experience and observation have taught me that it is true. The light always returns to us and us to it. We know this, right? And yet, how many of us really feel connected the majority of the time? It's sometimes really, really hard. We come out of church after an amazing talk and fabulous music, and we feel like we're walking on a cloud. Our connection is strong, and we feel like we can move mountains with our collective mustard seed of faith. You remember that one from Matthew 17:20, right? I tell you, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to that mountain, move from here to there, and it will move. Nothing will be impossible to you. So with that mustard seed of our collective faith, we can move mountains when we leave here, right? And then someone cuts us off in traffic. Or drivers in every lane of the freeway decide to line up in a neat little row and go 45 miles an hour for miles. Or we get in an argument with someone. Or we have a doctor's appointment that doesn't go the way we hoped it would. Or something, anything is happening which makes us feel less than secure. And all at once, that separation is staring us right in the face again. Whether or not we realize it, that's what it is. And so we live in this world of form, of separation, trying to remember who we are, seeking that oneness, but sometimes only getting moments where we feel truly connected. So today, I want to delve deeper into the truth about oneness and look at our experiences in separation. Because right now, just as it has been for countless years in the past, our lives, in our society, in our world, there's a lot of that experience of separation, right? In the Science of Mind textbook, Ernest Holmes says, the arbitrary process of evolution ceased when man became an individual, and any further evolution will be through self-recognition, but back of him is the whole of life surging to express itself. This is what is known as the divine urge. It's that instinctive, omniscient I am in man, always pushing him on and up, but it can only express for him as it flows through him. And both the Bible and Bhagavad Gita tell us the same thing, as Tony talked about in the readings a little while ago. And they say it repeatedly. And from the Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu tells us, filled with infinite possibilities and one with the dust, the Tao unites the world into one whole, like a deep pool that never dries up. And the Shema, the Jewish pledge of allegiance from Deuteronomy 6:4 says, hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. And medieval philosopher Maimonides, who had a profound and lasting impact on Judaism, interpreted this by saying that the highest level of wisdom a human being can attain is to comprehend the oneness of God. And so it goes, age after age, faith after faith. This is a concept that has been echoed throughout the millennia on continents far and wide and from innumerable spiritual voices. And it sounds so cut and dry, right? As long as we let the one power flow through us, we will see the expression and manifestation of spirit all around us in everything and everyone. Done and done. Easy peasy, right? But that's pretty far from most of our experiences here on earth. So many times it feels like we're taking one step forward and then two great big steps back. So how do we connect with the one power and allow it to flow through us so that we can experience the I am, that oneness with God more often? We talk about and pray to a higher power as if that power is somewhere out there, away from us, as if it is making decisions for us or denying us when it deems us unworthy. Many of us grew up in belief systems or surrounded by people who taught that concept of unworthiness to us from early childhood, telling us that we're not good enough and never can be, that we are inherently broken, that we are sinners. And society at large reinforced those beliefs of us being less than through unkind words and largely unsolicited negative judgments. And we grew up believing in separation. Us versus them. Good versus evil. That if only we could somehow be good enough, that we could attain perfection, which we were also told was impossible, then we would finally make it. We would finally be worthy. We would finally be loved. And sometimes we still live our entire lives from that belief. Now, in New Thought practices, we recognize first that there is only one almighty power, one presence, one mind, and that power is love. and it is all there is. Love is all there is. And after that, we recognize our unification with all that is. We bring those two ideas together and stand in a knowing that we are made from God and of God. We are one with that power, that love, is the divine essence of who we are at all times. The power that created all of the universe, that created the oceans and all life forms that exist, that literally formed the mountains, that power is within you, within me, and within all that is. And quantum physicists back that with the theory and resultant observation that all matter is made of the same energy. And if you're interested, I can forward you an article that breaks down all of the experiments in a really cohesive way, all in one place, which is super cool. So that power, that energy, that is our nature, and it has its being in us. It's all there is. And knowing that is true, what can there otherwise be? Many people speak as if we know this, but there is knowing, and then there is knowing with a capital No. There's a beautiful saying in religious science. It's, we are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. But I want to take that a step further. How about we are a powerful spiritual force of divine creative energy and love, having multiple life experiences simultaneously? I know that's big, but stick with me. Okay, so God in us, through us, as us, is us, right? Because there's only one. And when you know, with a capital No, our connection to source, to our oneness, we are literally stepping into our power. One. And when we step into who we are, what else is there to stand in the way? What else is there to be afraid of? For the last several weeks, a really wonderful memory kept finding its way to the front of my brain, and I couldn't figure out why. It was just popping into my head kind of randomly and out of the blue. But we all know that there are no coincidences, right? That everything happens for a reason. So I made a point of paying attention so I'd recognize that reason when it got here. And it did. While I was writing this message, right about here. Now, this happened the summer of 2011 at a retreat I attended. They had a different activity every morning, really early, like 6 a.m., to help us start each day with our consciousness in a positive, receptive state. And on this particular day, a lady whose name some of you might remember, Lava Bai, she led us in a healing meditation. Lava, whom I'd never met before and who became a very dear presence in my life after the events of that day, she has a set of, 8 to 12 glass singing bowls in various sizes. And they play this hauntingly beautiful tone in various notes depending on the size that you can't hear in any other instrument. And it kind of fills the room and your body feels like it's moving with the sound. And she's come and played them and been a part of several special services here. And I'm talking with her about participating in another service in the near future. Okay, now to the story. And hopefully I can tell you this without crying because I couldn't write it without crying. So hopefully I got that all out. Lava led us in what for me was the most poignant, transformative meditation I've ever experienced. Slowly, she guided us deeper and deeper into a meditative state until we were in a room with a door. And when we felt that we were ready and receptive to receive whatever message would come, we were to open that door and discover a child. Oh, and there it goes. More specifically, ourselves as a child. And we were to connect with that child, to converse with that child and make peace with that child. Ooh, these are happy tears, people. Now, I imagine that most people in there spent their time talking with their inner child about all the scary things that have happened in their lives, working toward catharsis and healing. And I imagine that scenario because I thought exactly that when I started, and that's not what happened. The first thing I did was to crouch down to be at the same height as my younger self, who appeared to be about 4-ish, and I began to apologize. I felt that I had failed to allow our full potential to be reached, that I had both hidden and actively avoided shining when moments of opportunity were revealed. And I looked down and I said, I'm sorry. Lava, I'm going to get you for making me cry. And then I felt little hands on my face. I know it was a meditation, but it was so incredibly real for me in that moment. And little me tilted my face up and looked into my eyes and said, no, I'm sorry. The little I, went on to tell me how loved I am. how beautifully and lovingly protective I've been, how strong I've been, and how I never let the real light within me be dimmed, even through a whole lot of scary, painful, confusing, cruel, and ugly situations that I faced through the years. I learned that I wasn't meant to shine in the ways I thought I'd failed in. That I was meant to let my love be the real light. We talked for what seemed like a very long time, but I'm sure it was only a few minutes. And I found myself loving that little child me as deeply and completely as I love my own children. And as lava began to guide us out of that meditative state, we hugged with all our hearts. And by the time my consciousness fully returned to that room, I was blubbering like I had just lost a dear friend. But in actuality, I'd just been reunited with one. The people in the room who noticed my poor attempts to hide my emotions, which, as you can tell, I don't do very well, they looked at me as though I had lobsters crawling right out of my ears. But lava looked at me and gave me a knowing smile and said, "Girl, you went deep, didn't you?" Boy, did I. And that experience changed everything. Because of it, an amazing thing happened. We'd all gone back to our rooms to process the experience and write about it in our journals. The journals were part of the retreat. And it was then that I saw how I accidentally stumbled upon a couple of life-changing books in my early 20s, A Course in Miracles and Marianne Williamson's Illuminata. I saw how I accidentally ended up without a job when the dot-com startup I was the marketing director for lost its funding overnight. How I accidentally started singing here occasionally in that jobless period when Alan Mills invited me to. I saw how I accidentally ended up at the first New Thought Music Symposium a few months later at my dad's behest, even though I really wasn't part of the music program other than those few solos. And how I accidentally came back from that symposium to start our choir here the very next day. And I accidentally started writing music and performing and writing and directing shows for holidays and fundraisers here, on and on. And those realizations have just kept coming through all the years since then. I realized how all of those little accidents, and so many more since then, have had everything to do with where I'm standing right now. But on that day of transformation, when I first realized how and why I'd been placed on this path, I felt a wall start crumbling down. And a flood of love came pouring in at me. It was as if an ocean of love had been crashing toward me for years, and because I built this wall, it couldn't get to me. It was as if the wall had been built on top of the foundational brick of belief that was holding it back, and when that brick was taken out, the wall could no longer stand. You see, our experience of separation comes from those foundational bricks of belief, of that wall that we've built and didn't even realize was there. I didn't until it fell. Now, our teachings help us take out some of those bricks and toss them away. Bricks like, we're born sinners. Nope, that one doesn't work. Pull that brick out and toss it. How about love is hard to find, or no one will ever love me? Nope, that one doesn't work either. Toss that away. In fact, all of our affirmations and prayers and spiritual mind treatments are working to remove those bricks so we're aware of and have a more complete connection to the one. Those foundational bricks, those ones that we've carefully curated, probably beginning when we were quite young, as in my case, those are the ones that we've put in place to support all of the others. And when we can get to those and remove them, it takes the whole wall down. And after that meditation, I felt like a whole tsunami of love and power and understanding was pouring into me. And it was finally able to reach me for the first time. What I realized later is that the wall coming down let that light that inner me told me I had, it let that light finally come all the way out. All of that power, all of that abundance, love, and God stuff was trapped in me behind my wall. And tearing down the wall let that out to complete the connection. And things have not been the same since. My point here is that God, in every one of us, is yearning to be released, to spread, to grow, and to light the universe. We must release it. There is only one truth, and it's that there is one beautiful, magnificent power in this universe, and that power is love. It is everything that is, ever has been, and ever will be. There is only one. And if we are experiencing anything unlike God, any disconnection in any moment, it's because of a wall. And that tells us we've got to remove another brick so we can get out of our way. We don't always have to know the exact brick. We only have to give our light permission to shine brighter, to call it forth in a bigger way. And then we can choose to release those beliefs. A while back, in fact, it was last year on Thanksgiving when we went to Yosemite, I had a divine download. And if you've never heard the term, it's when all at once you have a thought or grasp a concept that is so spiritually and metaphysically powerful that it feels like divine wisdom. And it is. And this divine download that I had was so big that I wrote it down. And it went like this: Spirit within me, Spirit that is me, speak me, sing me, love me, live me. Every wall that I have ever built to hold you back, I now tear down and let you freely express yourself through me. Today, we're tearing down those walls. We're stepping into our power, and we are connecting to the energy and oneness that is our nature, our truth, and we are letting that light within us shine brightly to connect with all that is. There's a quote by Rumi which sums this up beautifully. It's, "Why struggle to open a door between us when the whole wall is an illusion?" What we often forget to remember, and yes, I meant to say it that way, what we forget to remember is that starting with stardust and explosions, moving through evolution of life on this planet, through millions of years of growth on this earth, and every life of our ancestors, and every experience of our great-grandparents had, every experience our grandparents lived through, and everything our parents did, through every experience we've ever had in our lives, every seemingly chance encounter, every accident, every joy, every tear, through it all, one energy and all-knowing power was literally moving heaven and earth to bring each and every one of us to this exact moment in time. Moving heaven and earth for you, a magnificent spiritual force of energy having multiple earthly experiences manifested as each of us to be right here, to realize your purpose, to live your passion, to feel your oneness with all things, and finally step into your power. The world needs you, needs us, not hiding behind walls of fear and separation, but finally shining the light of God that we are and tearing those walls down. And today the walls come down, yes? Okay, let us pray. In this moment, we turn within. And we go down beneath all that we think we are, down below everything we've experienced in this lifetime and everything we've been told by others we are and must be. We go down to the deepest part of our soul, to where there's only light. And in that one power, one energy, one voice, one life, we know that we have a direct connection at all times to the fullness of God. As we take our personal connection to the next level, it fills and heals our physical bodies and eases our fears and worries. We can feel that power rising up, and love starts overflowing, starts pouring into the person next to us, and the next, and the next. And as this sacred space fills with love, it flows out into the streets, and it fills up each person there, flows into homes, into businesses, into restaurants, into the whole city, and flows from there to fill the state, the country, the seas, the planet, and the universe. There is enough love right here to heal all, to light all darkness, and we are connected with that power now and always. And there is only unspeakable gratitude for this truth and the powerful ability to feel it right here and right now. And on this truth, gratitude and love, we stand and let it be done, releasing the illusion that once allowed our walls to stand and stepping into the knowing spirit within me, spirit that is me. Breathe me. Speak me, move me, live me. Every wall I have ever built to hold you back, I now tear down and set you free within me. I set you free to shine through me as me. And so it is. Amen.